going on? It's your host, your boy, George Mackay, back in the Straight Talk studios. And look, via Zoom, look who's in the studio. Very excited to see him. The one and only, my PIC, Uncle Bobby B.
What's happening? It's been a while. Yeah, I've been just kind of barricading myself at home. Had some illness, some stress, some work stuff, been super busy, and but it's nice to be back in the Straight Talk studios.
It is nice. I got a new Glade plug-in, so it smells ultra fresh in here.
Well, that's what you think.
I was hoping so, but damn, all right, I'll air it out a little bit more then.
You're not using a heated seat, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay, we ain't fitting the final fish up in here.
No, not at all. I don't know where to go from there. I don't know how to perceive this all. So, guys, we're here to talk tonight's episode. That's right, MLW April 11th edition of Underground. It is the final Underground before we get War Chamber, then we get Battle Riot, and then we go right into the new season of Fusion. So it looks like there will be no breaks this year from what they've announced so far.
It's gonna be Fusion or Underground?
No, they said they're going back to Fusion. They said they're returning back to Fusion in the new season or new segment of this. So Underground is wrapped up for, I want to say this. I think Underground is winter. Fusion is summer, fallish. And then in between, we've got our Kings of Colosseums, we've got our War Chambers and all that stuff. So next week, we're heading right into War Chamber, which, as you know, the big main event is Calling versus Team Hammer / Hammer and SGC. I don't know if I guess it's Team Hammer.
I think it's the Hammerheads.
The Hammerheads, is that what they've gone with?
That is what they've gone with.
Well, there was a lot of Calling and Hammerheads action all throughout this episode, so let's get right into it. First off, we start off with a recap of Kane and Davey and their feud over the Opera Cup and everything like that, because as we all know, just to give everyone a recap, this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Alex Kane has the Opera Cup, but he did not win the Opera Cup. He was the one who stole it from the now canceled Davey Richard, or should I say self-canceled Davey Richards, but he was going to get canceled anyway, so it doesn't matter. Well, yeah, but self-canceled adds a little bit more stigma to it. Fine. The retired, again, Davey Richards, and Kane stole it, and Davey Boy Smith Jr., he's been desperate to try to get it back because it's his family legacy. Why, may you ask? Because the last person to win it in 1948 was, in fact, Stu Hart. So that is why it is very special to the Hart family and the Hart dynasty. So, yeah. And the show starts off right off the bat with that four-way dumpster match.
Yeah.
It's actually more of a 3-on-1 if you think about it, because it was Microman, Mance Warner, Matt Justice versus Real One. So it was pretty much a handicap dumpster match. That makes sense. I did like the setup, though. Dumpster at the front of the ring. Dumpster at the back of the ring. I don't know if they could have fit 4 dumpsters on each side, but they did have 2 there, so it was all in play. Very cool. A lot of the stuff in this match was, the match was entertaining. I will say that. A lot of the stuff in this match show was a lot of 3-on-1 combos. I did enjoy when Matt Justice had Microman up like Simba, like the Lion King, but he dropped Microman willingly onto Real One.
Yeah.
That was nice.
That was a nice touch.
That was a nice touch. Yeah, he dropped him willingly. And then they went up for that 3-on-1 maneuver, and Real One rolling away from it all before he could be chased around the ring by Matt Justice and by but what about that drop kick right off the hop when the bell rang from Real One on Microman? Like, Real One's done that move a couple times, and I don't know if it's Microman's selling ability or the fact that Real One is not, kayfabing the hit too well, but every time he does that, like, I don't know, what do you call it? What do they call that? The bottom. They usually call it a basement drop kick.
Yeah, like a slide, whatever. Yeah.
But to Microman, it's just a full-on drop kick, and he gets all of it almost every time. But the match was entertaining. It ended with Matt Justice on top of I want to say 10-foot ladder.
Yeah, and it was like, I had a good laugh. Joe Dombrowski on commentary. So if you don't know, Joe Dombrowski's, I believe, from Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, he's an Ohio boy.
Matt Justice, also from Ohio. They've known each other a number of years. Matt Justice and I have some mutual friends. And to hear Joe Dombrowski say, like, he's God, I can't remember the exact line.
I know the one you're talking about. I can't remember it either.
Yeah. I was like, what is Matt Justice doing? And Joe's like, I've been asking myself that question for the last 15 years or 17 years or something like that. But it's true. Matt Justice just does and I don't mean stupid. I don't mean that like
he does the risque spots.
He does some crazy spots. Let's say crazy. I don't want to say stupid because that sounds like I'm putting him down. I'm not.
But picture this, guys. We already know the ECW arena, or the 2300 arena, is already a very tight space, and they've hit the rafters a few times. But here's this 10 to 12 foot ladder. Matt Justice perched on top, and Matt Justice is what, about 6 feet?
Yeah, he's a tall cat.
He's a tall cat. So we're talking now 18 feet up in the air onto Real One, who's about 4 feet up to the air because he's on the dumpster, which is about a foot from the ring apron. Matt Justice is there when he stands full on, and he's not on the top of the ladder. He's on like the second or third last step before we get to the top. No, he couldn't. He was hitting the screens.
Yeah.
So they had like the digital scoreboard in the center of the ring.
Yeah, he's like up on the scoreboard.
He literally, this scoreboard was at the back of his head, and he jumped off that ladder right onto Real One through the dumpster. And Real One is packing. And as you all know, we talked about it last week. Real One and MLW done. Real One did go on a rant saying that they wanted him to go after Richard Holiday via the battle that Richard Holiday was facing. I don't, and no one from MLW has officially commented on that. I don't believe that to be true. We don't know Court Bauer personally, but we do know Richard Holiday personally, and we do know the relationship that Richard Holiday and Court Bauer have. There's no way Court Bauer would ever work that into a storyline and be disrespectful like that. So I don't really see that happening. But best of luck to Real One in his future endeavors. What we do know, factual, is that Real One is very difficult to work with. Creatively and non-creatively, just in life in general, Real One is difficult to work with. So I don't believe a second of anything that he said. And that's just my honest opinion. I'm not asking anyone to take it, but I don't believe for a second that Court Bauer would try to capitalize on Richard Holiday's battle with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I don't believe that.
I mean, if I'm being dead honest here,
okay,
Richard Holiday coming back from what he's come back from makes it hard to pitch him as the evil Richard Holiday. I think it's such a like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a heartwarming story. Like the guy is, young guy,
overcoming
top
adversity,
physical condition, overcomes adversity. You almost want to capitalize on that and bring him back as a baby face because the fans are going to be behind him no matter what.
You want to capitalize. You want to capitalize on that. You would do it the way. I mean, the way I would book that if Richard Holiday returns, have him and Hammer pick up the feud, but this time have it be a feud where they know it's coming, and have Hammer call out Richard and say, "Brother, I'm proud of you. I'm happy that we're standing in this ring, and you know what? I'm going to give you that title shot in a last man standing match. Let's do this the right way. If you want this title, let's do it the right way. You take it from me." Or a 60-minute Iron Man match. Show the fans what we both know, how great Richard Holiday is in the ring. I think that's a better redemption story than having him go into a program with Real One and having Real One attack the cancer. I don't think it was pitched that way for sure.
I mean, and again, we don't know the details.
We don't, but I'm just saying I don't believe it was pitched that way.
I mean, I wouldn't say I don't believe it. I don't know if I don't know if it would even be in bad taste. Like if it would all depend on how it was done. But I will say, like, Real One really kind of won me over the last few weeks with his performances.
He did, and it's too bad that
putting people over as opposed to getting himself over, which. And I'm not saying that's his attitude is bad. I'm not saying that, but maybe like that was part of the problem. Was again he was being asked to put more people over. Maybe.
Well, what did he think? He was going to come into a company where they already had their cornerstones kind of developed. They already have their pillars, to use a cliche that we've used a lot in wrestling lately, and have him become one of the pillars. You're not going to run a program with Fatu and Hammer. You're not going to go after that title. You got to earn that right for that title.
I couldn't tell you what his thought process would be because everybody values themselves differently. And the only version of yourself that exists to you is the version that exists in your own mind. Everybody else has a different version of you. So however you may value yourself may not be how everybody else values you. And I guess I can leave it at that.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new segment on MLW Rewind. It's called Philosophies with Uncle Bobby B.
Robservations.
Robservations. I like that. We're gonna work that into every program from now on. At the end of it, like kind of like Jerry Springer's final thoughts, you will have Robservations. I love it. It's happening. It's officially a segment in the MLW Rewind. Absolutely. Now, right after this match, though, after celebrating the win, Real One going into the dumpster, Matt Justice gets the win, but they can't celebrate. Or they try to celebrate, but they can't celebrate. Why? Because the calling comes a calling, huh? Pun definitely intended. Come on. I really was excited about that pun. I thought of it yesterday. I was like, yes.
You were excited about that pun?
I was the calling comes a calling.
All right. Anyways, the calling
comes a calling.
Came a calling.
There you go. See, it rolls off the tongue. It does. They came a calling. They attacked Mance Warner. They attacked Matt Justice. And this thing spilled out into the back. Like this was an all-out war to the point where they were in the back. They were fighting the calling. And who came to join? Well, who do you think? Hammer.
Of course.
And I didn't see Manders. Was Manders back there in that one?
I don't recall.
Manders was in the one at the end of the show, but I don't remember seeing him in the initial startup one. But anyways, this one spilled to the back. Hammer's back there. The calling is getting their asses handed to them. I mean, Mance Warner had 2 of them, and he was just beating the crap out of him. Matt Justice had a few. Hammer was great because they actually did something from like Mighty Ducks, the third one, where Hammer was beating one dude and the other dude came running and Hammer like ducked and then flipped him up against the garage door. That was pretty bad. I did enjoy that part. The homage to Mighty Ducks 3, whether intended or not, was incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. What did you think about the brawl after the dumpster match? Actually, what was your thoughts about the dumpster match as a whole? I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. The Matt Justice spot at the end was crazy. Thank God everybody was okay. And Real One getting dropped in a dumpster like a piece of trash, that was enjoyable. And the fact that he's from Jersey or Long Island, getting put into a dumpster.
He's from Jersey.
Oh, he's from Jersey. Okay, even better. To get put into a dumpster to eventually go to the Jersey landfill. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. That's a free trip home if you think about it.
Yeah, the match was good. I liked it. I thought it was the whole Simba thing. I'm not gonna lie, like it was kind of cheesy, but I laughed. I thought it was funny. Like,
well, then it did exactly what it was intended to do.
Yeah, and then the way they kind of flipped that with Matt doing that to throw him on Enzo. It was a fun match. It's kind of building up the second gear crew a little bit, giving them some more exposure.
Well, and getting a steamroll right into War Games, like it's heating up. The feud is heating up, and we know at War Games we're gonna see. I want to say, I mean, we've only seen a few War Games matches so far in our tenure here at MLW Rewind, but I want to say this one might be the one that I enjoy the most.
And I mean, I can imagine Matt Justice being like, "All right, it's one of my first matches here. How am I gonna let everyone know what Matt Justice is all about?" I could just see him be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna jump off this fucking 10-foot ladder and give Real One an elbow drop into the dumpster." That's a Matt Justice thing to do. So that's exactly what I expected from. I was wondering how long it was gonna take until I saw him do something where I was just like, "Oh Jesus!" And it didn't take very long. Like I have seen, one of the craziest spots I've ever seen, and it not a like death match spot or anything, just like hardcore wrestling spot was a ring with no ropes. Matt Justice had Channing Decker in a fireman's carry, and outside of the ring was a bunch of steel chairs that had been just set up like normal, unfolded. And he gave him a running fucking like roll with him up on his back. Sorry, this was Channing had Matt up on his back, I believe. And yeah, did a running roll, and Matt just took it like a champ. And he was doing the whole like convulsions thing when he landed and everything. I have a video of it. We should post it on the Street Talk page.
Absolutely can.
But yeah, it's I expect nothing less from these guys. It's only going to get better from here. Let's put it that way. But I was going to mention, how many matches have we seen where the calling did not interrupt it in recent weeks?
Not one that I can think of.
Right? Like they're really building them. Like this is going to be a big ongoing long storyline. From what I can tell, they're really building these guys up. Like they're everywhere in MLW right now. They're involved with like everything. So
they're either involved with everything, or even the stories that we're like in this episode, there's stories that are developing weeks later that were from things that happened weeks ago.
Right.
So moving on into this, that brawl again was enjoyable as hell. And Hammer, shout out to you, man, on the Mighty Ducks 3 spot. Intended or not, I fucking enjoyed it. I absolutely did. So we also get right before so the next match we got Davey Boy versus Kane. This is the match we talked about from last week. This is the no ropes catch wrestling match. This is old school, straight up NCAA, Greco-Roman wrestling, and it's absolute.
No, it was actually not Greco-Roman.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I associate Greco-Roman with NCAA and all that kind of stuff. So my apologies on that.
Okay.
I apologize.
The differential there.
Mm-hmm.
What differentiates Greco-Roman? Greco-Roman is all upper body, like standing upper body wrestling, not just standing, but so it's not, you're not going for like takedowns using the legs and stuff. It's more wrestling your opponent.
So what do they do in like high school? What's amateur wrestling then?
That's just amateur wrestling. Like
okay,
yeah, that's what
okay. So then this was NCAA amateur wrestling at its finest.
It was catch wrestling.
It was catch wrestling.
It was catch.
Okay. Well, I myself don't know the difference. So when they said catch wrestling and when the match developed, I'm like, okay, this is like old school NCAA wrestling. This is what you watch in the Olympics.
You just reminded me of, I don't even know if I should tell this. There was a guy in Ontario.
Oh, fuck.
Who was messaging different wrestlers and asking them if they would wrestle him naked. Not sexual, just naked, lubed up wrestling like they did back in the day. But nothing sexual. Just two lubed up naked men wrestling.
How did we get here?
Because I thought it was hilarious that he was messaging all these different wrestlers and like offering the money for it, and like everyone was like, no, thanks, I'm good.
Yeah, how did he think he was going to sell that?
That was my question. Like how
are you gonna message someone and say, hey man, you want to get lubed up and wrestle me, but in a non-sexual
and now
way?
every time you go to a show, everyone's gonna be like, oh, there's a guy that wants to wrestle me naked. Like I don't know. People are weird. Wrestling fans, especially, we're all weird in some way.
Strange. Well, I listen. I'm weird, but
Different
I will never message someone and be like, non-sexually, do you want to wrestle me all lubed up? Like, I don't see that. That's a line I will never cross that line.
Well, if you haven't stopped listening by now,
let's carry on. This was all in all, this was a great match. I did enjoy the grappling. I mentioned it had that old school feel for me, and I loved it. The one part I really enjoyed was Mr. Thomas reaching out for Alex Kane, trying to get the rope break when there are no ropes.
I was just giving him leverage so he could.
No, he was trying to get him towards the ropes, and Davey, catching that, stood up, and as Thomas looked at him square in the face, Davey winded up for what had to be one of the hardest kicks to a human being I have ever seen, and literally kicked him so hard that he went flying off the apron into the guardrail. And selling or not, fucking impressive. So shout out to Davey Boy Smith on it. Was literally like he boot fucked Mr. Thomas to no end, and it was incredible to watch. And what I did love, especially, was the finish on this. So the finish, old school, full Nelson. He's got Kane dead to rights in the center of the ring. Again, there's no rope breaks, nothing like that. And he gets it all in to the point where Kane is trying his best to hang on. But what happens? Alex Kane goes dead eyes roll in the back of his head like the Undertaker, and he just passes the fuck out. Ref stops the match, but what does Davey do? A little bit of Cummins, a little bit of karma for Alex Kane. He hangs on for those additional few seconds, finally breaking it, walking away, celebrating. Mr. Thomas rolls in the ring. They can't get Alex awake. He's passed out cold. Thank God Mr. Thomas had some smelling salts.
Things work, man.
And he woke Kane up, and Kane's like, first thing Kane said, looked at Mr. Thomas, did I win? Did I win? Thomas was like, no, you did not win.
And then Alex like passed back
out. We also forgot that they tried to use the Boomaye juice again. Misfire. Davey was ready for it, had it scouted. So kudos to this match. It was fun to watch. It was entertaining. Now, Rob and I were talking beforehand, and he did mention a point that was, I think, valid. And the point was that if you were in the audience, probably would have been hard to gauge and enjoy this match because you didn't have the camera angles that we did to enjoy it at home. This match was more for the home audience as opposed to the in live action audience. So I apologize. It sucks if you were a fan that night. You might have missed out on something great, but regardless of the fact, we at home thoroughly enjoyed this match.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't that bad, but I just like with a match like that.
Well, the angles that we had, we were able to really see everything.
We could.
What would have been better is if, I think, because they had the ring post there, I think it would have been better to have a couple GoPros up there, just to get some kind of POV birdshot angles. Like if they had stationed a camera at every turnbuckle, would have been cool to see.
It was just being able to see, like I wrestled in high school, so we're talking like 30, 20 years ago, whatever.
Don't age us more. Yeah, 20. It's fucking 20 years ago, dude.
20 years ago, whatever.
Jesus Christ.
A lot of the stuff that you'll see from amateur wrestling that carried over to professional wrestling. It was really cool to see a lot of like the locks, the rolls, the grabs, the suplexes, all that stuff. It was really enjoyable for me. I don't know if it's something I'd want to see done on the regular, but like as a one-off, this was a really fun kind of match to have. Crowd, I was trying to watch them a bit. They seemed like into it, not into it, kind of going back and forth. And again, it might have been because they couldn't see all these little.
They were hyped up for the early stage of this match. They were yelling out Boomaye. They were yelling out Davey. They were really yelling out Davey. So the crowd was firmly behind Davey Boy Smith in this one. So the babyface definitely got over, and Kane did his part as the ultimate villain, 150%.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, his Alex Kane is, for his age, he's so good, and his selling is fantastic, and that's something that a lot of people, especially at the young age, don't grasp it because they're too busy trying to get themselves over that they forget you're trying to get your opponent over, and that gets you over. And Alex, I think, gets that. So the way he sold for Davey Boy, did the job. It was fantastic. Fun match.
I enjoyed it. I think it lived up to the hype, and I think this was a great way to, I guess, end this feud or put a pin in this feud for now. It's not over. They'll pick this up down the line. These two have a fight forever feel, I believe.
Oh yeah, I mean, with the similar styles that wrestling like.
Oh, thank you for mentioning. Thank you for mentioning. We also forgot to talk about the German on German combos that they did again, which was excellent. They both no sold each other's first couple of Germans, and then they really put some moxie behind the last Germans that they both threw at each other. And it was great too because both men were exhausted because this was a real this is a real catch. This is a real wrestling match. Like this wasn't, there wasn't. They were both blown up, and this went on for about a good 8 to 10 minutes. So they were both blown up pretty good. Like Davey was huffing and puffing in the back, and I'm not saying his conditioning was weak at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like this match takes a lot out of you, man. It does.
Wrestling, because you're using your whole body, it is one of the most tiring. It's like MMA. Like you watch MMA and you'd be like, wow, they went like 3 rounds of 5 minutes. How bad could it be? Go 1 round of 5 minutes using your whole body. Good luck. It is one of the most exhausting sports to play, to participate in, not play. So yeah, they both looked like they were exhausted, but nothing they couldn't handle. Like you said,
I wouldn't ever want to go 1 round of 5 minutes because I would get blown. I would get blown up just doing my jumping up and down when they announce me. I'd be like, I'm done.
45 seconds of full body wrestling is exhausting. Like grappling on the ground. You watch these guys do Brazilian jiu-jitsu or just jiu-jitsu, whatever. It's exhausting. Absolutely exhausting.
150%. Oh, and it was pretty cool. This is a shout out moment. Something when Ricky Shane Page came out with the calling to do the initial attack. Ariana, my youngest, was watching, and she stopped, looked at the camera, and said, "Hey, I know that guy. That's Jody Threat's boyfriend." So shout out to Ricky Shane Page, Jody Threat. Ricky, she knew you as Jody Threat's significant other because my daughter is a Jody Threat mark. She loves Jody. So there you go. A little tidbit of letting you into my personal life, if you will. Now, after this match, what was great about this is during the whole time that this match was happening, MLW did something wonderful. They put a little screen in the corner, little picture-in-picture action. And what was that? The Calling and the Hammerhead feud. All of it. All of it.
Yeah.
Was being the whole time this match was happening out, the Calling feud and the battle with Team Hammer was happening backstage, and it was still going. I love the attention to detail on showing that there no refs broke this up. That fight in the back was still happening throughout the entirety of the show, which was absolutely fantastic. So right after this, we get one of the very few promos of the night. It was very, very light on promo, very heavy on wrestling this week, which I think we both enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
We get that sometimes. Sometimes we get a promo heavy episode. Sometimes we get a wrestling heavy episode. So I think they have a really good balance at that. But the one promo that we did have was a recap of Leo and Lindsay from last week, where Leo stole the title. And he walked out with the middleweight championship.
Oh, George. Lindsay putting words in your ear? You wearing an earpiece? He didn't steal the title.
He absolutely did. Sam knows he did. And shout out to Sam Laterna. She's got a news for nose, and she tried to fully call out Leo Rush in her promo on the fact that he stole the title. Leo, quote unquote, robbing it up, saying that he did not do any of that. But it was a great promo. And what I loved about this promo was this was Leo Rush at his most basic and his most simple promo skills, something that he does so well. And you know what? The only thing I've ever said about Leo Rush is the coming in and out of retirement. It's confusing. But the fact is, this promo, I loved it because he quoted one of the best lines I've ever seen him quote it with such intensity that only Leo Rush can do on promo that nobody else can do. He looked square at the camera. He said, "Let's say, want this title? Catch me if you can." And he did the Leo Rush smile, and he just walked off. And Sam, what I love about these promos is that after the wrestler leaves, the camera always pans to Sam and it pans to Alicia, and they both do something so great. Alicia did it, and now Sam's doing it as well. They both give that little reaction at the end where it's like, I wasn't done. I had more questions, and you said what you had to say, and you just walked the fuck off, dude. Like, it's so great.
Sam does something that all wrestlers should do too. She sells with her face. You watch her facial expressions when Leo says stuff; they're great. It just brings you more into it. It adds more depth to these conversations that they have, and yeah, it was a cool little promo from Leo. Like you said, he's doing what he does. I liked it. We're clearly building up this feud, and it should be a banger of a match when it inevitably occurs.
Absolutely. And so leading into our main event of the evening, which is Calvin Tankman versus Akira. Now, this is a kind of a continuation from the story that we saw a couple weeks ago where EJ and Duca was attacked in the back by the Calling, and then obviously written off TV because he's no longer with the company, but attacked, written off TV for kayfabe injuries. And Calvin Tankman was getting repercussions for his fallen brother, challenging the Calling, challenging Akira to a fight. Calvin came out looking focused and ready as he always does. Akira came out with the table, with the weapons, picked the crowbar like he always does. But we got to finally see who was the man behind the table. And I think we all knew who it was, but they eventually, just letting us know full well. Raven was always the man handing the weapons out by the table. So Raven unmasking himself there. So now we know who is the man who's handing the weapons that they choose. And they seem to be choosing the same weapons. And I've noticed too that the tables do mix it up. Only with Ricochet Page do we have the weed thing.
The weed whacker.
The weed whacker thing.
Go with, what you like. Go with what
yeah, but Ricky only goes for the nail, man. Dude, Ricky, one time, go for the fucking weed whacker, please.
But that's the thing.
You know what? I don't think it will. I feel like now I've just expected it. So every time the sheet comes off, I'm hoping. And they, Ricky doesn't even look at that end of the table. It's like they put it there because they don't want him to see it. Like, come on. Don't tease me, guys.
When it does happen, you'll pop because he finally used the weed
whacker. Well, and that'll be the whole thing we talk about. For the first 5 minutes of the episode, when it happens, we'll be like, guys, we finally used it. The MVP of MLW, I'm just going to have a picture of it up on the TV back here. 150%. All right, so Calvin Tankman comes out. Akira comes out. He grabs a crowbar. Ding, ding, ding. We're off to the races. Now, what I loved about this match is that Calvin Tankman took it to the outside, and he had Akira kind of reeling for the beginning portion of this match. And then, unfortunately, he went full steam into the corner, into the guardrail, and he put his foot over the guardrail. And at that point, Akira unfortunately took over the match. And I say unfortunately because I was really pulling for Calvin Tankman in this one. I wanted to call and get a little bit of karma, but if they were to do that now going into War Games, calling would look weak.
Yeah, gotta have that momentum.
Gotta have that momentum. Gotta have that still undefeated streak. And another thing that was surprising was a duplicate finish. The same finish we had in Kane versus Davey Boy Smith Jr., we also had in Tankman versus Akira. Akira got up, did that sweet submission hold, and then kind of turned it into, what was that submission hold? Joe Dabrowski said it. It was a really complicated submission hold. It almost looked like AJ Lee's Black Widow.
Forget the name for it, dude. But yeah, he turned it into like a rear naked choke.
Yeah, so it looked like AJ Lee's Black Widow. If you remember AJ Lee's submission hold, that's what he originally started with, and then he kind of morphed it into a rear naked choke, and he dropped Calvin. He had Calvin out cold. Calvin passed out, and it was dangerous. And the calling got in the ring. They got up in the ring, and they put the calling card on Calvin Tankman's back as to say that they had vanquished him. And what happened there? Well, the SGC came out. Manders finally shows up. Matt Justice shows up. They got weapons in the ring. They're handling stuff there. And then all of a sudden, cameras go out to the parking lot. And what do we got going on in the parking lot? We have Ricochet Page, more members of the calling out in the parking lot, attacking Mance and Hammer. Mance and Hammer handling their own business, putting them through. There was a Toyota, I believe a Camry in the front spot. You guys might want to check your hood if you've left it there, because a couple members of the calling were thrown onto said hood of said Camry. And right at the end, before the cameras went off, right by the loading dock, Ricochet Page had a table with lighter fluid, and he lit it right before the cameras went off air. So I don't know if they're going to continue that next week, or we're going to see who might or might not have gone through that table. But Ricochet Page did light a table on fire. Sure, Ricochet Page could throw out lighter fluid on the table, but he can't grab the fucking weed whacker that's just off to the left. Come on.
Doing this weed whacker.
I just want to see it be used. You know what? If I ever get invited to a fans bring weapons match, I'm gonna buy one of those fucking things.
A weed whacker?
It's not a weed whacker. It's the weed puller thing.
Yeah, the
it looks like a weed whacker.
I know it is. It's got metal tines.
Yeah, it's got a little cup.
Yeah. They used to have the infomercials for it.
Yeah, it was great. My grandmother had like 2 of them.
Oh, it was called. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's driving me nuts too. It was from the 90s. I mean, we're pop culturing ourselves right now.
Yeah, we really are.
Or Asian. What are you gonna Google weed whacker thing? Like, how are you gonna find it? When we find it, we're both gonna be like, okay, yeah.
Some sort of.
It looked exactly like that.
Yeah, it looked like that. But what was it called? Okay, we're just taking up audio time.
Yeah, but we gotta find it. Okay, well, Rob searches Google for that. That's pretty much the end of the episode. Rob, what did you think about the whole Calvin Tankman and Akira match? What were your thoughts on that? Give up. We're never going to find it. It's a 90s weed whacker thing. If anybody can find it, comment it below. But Rob, what was your overall thoughts on the final match of this and the parking lot brawl that went off, that ended the show and went off air?
Good match. I guess it wasn't a bad match, but I guess overshadowed a little bit by the other matches.
This was unfortunately a stepping stone into, excuse me, into next week's War Chamber.
Yeah. Like I said, a little, not a big deal, just a little weird that we had kind of a rear naked choke finisher 2 matches in a row.
Well, I thought the first one was a full Nelson.
No, full Nelson is both arms behind the head, like the master lock.
I thought it, but it started off as a master lock, and then I guess
he had his arm under.
Oh, okay. So my apologies. So he had him in a full Nelson to start.
It was a sleeper hold.
Right. It was a sleeper hold, but originally when he had Alex up, he had him in the full Nelson, and I think Alex broke out of it, and then he went into the sleep. Okay. All right. So I called it wrong, but still, we had the same sleeper hold, rear naked choke hold finish for 2 matches back to back. Not a big deal, but a little bit of a head scratcher. It's like you couldn't do something cooler. Like what would have been cooler is if Akira and the calling interfered in the match. Like the calling came in the ring and they all beat down Tankman. So Tankman would have won by disqualification, but Akira would have still looked strong.
Yeah, I can't argue with that logic. But yeah, the parking lot brawl, clearly we're setting up for War Chamber. Excuse me. It's gonna be a banger. I think we're gonna get a really good match out of all these guys.
I couldn't agree more.
I'm excited for it. This parking lot brawl. Gonna see definitely next week. It's gonna open the show with what happened following going off air.
Going off air for sure.
So a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Now let's talk, because the SGC is so creative with weapons that they bring, but so is the calling. And the thing about War Chamber is that this match is flooded with weapons. Everything and anything can be used unless it's literally tied down, and then they can always untie it. So looking at what these 2 factions or teams bring to the table, what would you say would be weapons of choice for this?
Does Microman have a match at War Chamber?
Not that I'm aware of.
Bet you Microman gets used as a weapon. He's gonna pop out of something on Team Hammerhead, like a garbage can or something.
Okay, so Microman used as a weapon. Okay, what else do you think? I mean, I think Ricky will bring the nail. I think Akira will bring the crowbar. I could see Raven bringing like a kendo stick or some bats into it for sure.
I can see Mance bringing a garbage can
filled with weapons.
I can see Manders bringing a cowbell, and
Manders will definitely bring the cowbell.
You know, the rope.
Matt Justice will bring a ridiculously tall ladder and jump off the highest point of that. This match is going to be absolutely insane.
Matt Justice is a wild card. You don't know what's going to happen with that guy.
Absolutely. Just like if you own that camera, you don't know what you're going to get back in insurance claims.
I guarantee you. Look, listen to me. Remember that after War Chamber, Matt Justice is going to have the craziest spot in that match. Book it. All right?
Let it soak in.
All right?
Is that is that this week's Robservation?
No, it's just I'm just saying.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for Robservations.
All the time we have for Rewind.
That's it. Rewind is over, finished, wrapped. This one is in the can. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check the links in the socials below. Peace, love, and wrestling. I'm your host, your boy, George Mackay.
I'm Uncle Bobby B, baby.
And we'll see you guys next week on the Rewind. Peace.
Adios.